My stepson acted like my house belonged to him and told me to know my place. Things escalated when he and his biological father broke in to steal from me, leading to police involvement and arrests. I learned the hard way that being the provider doesn't make you part of the family. It just makes you convenient. Anyway, here's what happened when my family told me to know my place. I 43 male build things for a living. Houses, cabinets, furniture, you name it. I like things that make sense. You measure, you cut, you join, it fits, or it doesn't. Too bad people aren't built the same way. I met Rebecca when I was working on her friend's porch. She stopped by to check progress, but it was obvious she was checking me out instead. I remember her leaning against the railing, smiling like she already knew I'd be trouble. Divorced, 2 kids, Jordan 16 and Ashley 12. She had that tired but tough look, the kind you only get from carrying the world on your shoulders too long. I liked that. First time I visited her place, it looked like a Pinterest board had lost a war. Cabinet door hanging by one hinge, shelves barely holding up, one stair creaking like it was begging for mercy. I fixed them all. Next thing I know, I'm there more often than not. Fixing a sink one day, putting up curtain rods the next, then I'm staying for dinner, then breakfast, then weekends. That's how these things go. You slide into someone's life so smoothly, you don't realize you've set up camp. So we started dating. Her kids were quiet at first, especially Jordan. He was one of those tall, quiet types who pretended not to care, but watched everything. One afternoon, he wandered into the garage while I was sanding a table. "Can I try?" he asked awkwardly, scratching the back of his neck. "Sure," I said, handing him the sandpaper. "But if you mess up the grain, you're starting over." He grinned. "Deal." That was our first real moment. After that, he hung around more. We built a small coffee table together. Simple, clean design. He was proud of it, even carved his initials underneath. A few weeks later, he came home from his part-time job at the grocery store and handed me $20. Said, "Thanks for teaching me stuff, Sam." I tried to give it back, but he shoved it in my pocket and ran off. That hit me harder than I expected. I don't get sentimental, but that moment stuck. I thought maybe, just maybe, I was doing something right. Ashley was the total opposite of her brother. Chatty, clingy in a good way. She'd follow me around the garage like a shadow, handing me nails, asking random questions like, "Why do you always measure twice?" I'd tell her, "Because mistakes are expensive." She'd laugh, say I sounded like a robot, but she was always smiling when I was around. She'd brag about me at school. According to Rebecca, I won't lie. It felt nice being someone's role model. After about 8 months, I decided to stop playing house and actually build a life. I proposed to Rebecca and we got married in a small garden party. Then I bought a 3-bedroom place in a solid area. Not too fancy, just sturdy. Backyard big enough for a grill, garage perfect for a workshop. I paid the down payment and mortgage. Rebecca said she'd handle groceries and utilities. Team effort. I like the sound of that. The day we moved in, Jordan claimed the room with the biggest window. Ashley picked the one near the garden because she liked the light. I took the master and built Rebecca a custom headboard. She cried when she saw it. I don't do tears, but I'll admit it got me. You know, before, if you told me I'd be helping raise another man's kids, I would have laughed. I used to say I'd never do it. I had a buddy, Rob, who married a woman with 2 teenagers. The son trashed his tools. The daughter sneaked her boyfriend in, and in the end, the mom took their side. It wrecked him. He'd come to the shop sometimes, sit on a stack of lumber and say, "Sam, never build a life in someone else's house." I always nodded, figured he was right. But looking at Ashley and Jordan unpacking boxes that day, I thought maybe Rob just had bad luck. These kids weren't like that. Jordan was quiet but respectful. Ashley was sweet, always smiling. They called me Sam without hesitation, and it didn't sound forced. It sounded like family. I caught myself thinking how weird it was that I'd started to enjoy being around them. For once, everything felt balanced, simple, right. I thought, this is it. This is what all the work was for. What I didn't know was that the same people I was building a future for were already halfway into tearing it down. But at that moment, I was just Samuel the carpenter who thought love and effort could earn respect. Turns out all it earned me was a front row seat to my own downfall. But at first it didn't look like one. It looked like everything I'd ever wanted. Life was smooth, predictable in the best way. We had family dinners almost every night. It seemed like everything was okay. There was this one day that really stuck with me. Jordan had his first football game of the season. He'd been talking about it all week, pacing around like a soldier before battle. The morning of the game, he came up to me while I was packing a cooler. "Sam," he said, trying to sound casual, "can you come, like, sit on our side? Mom and Ash will be there, but you should too. You know, as my dad." He said it so quick I almost missed it, but it hit like a nail gun. "As your dad." I acted calm, just nodded. Yeah, of course. Wouldn't miss it. But I'll be honest, I could have built a whole house with the pride I felt that day. At the game, he kept glancing at me after every good play. I gave him the classic thumbs up every time, the kind that says you're doing good, kid. When his team won, he ran straight toward us and fist bumped me first before even hugging Rebecca. Ashley teased her about it all week. Those were the moments that fooled me into thinking I'd actually done it, that I'd built a real family from scratch. Then came Derek. I didn't even know the guy was still in town. He'd been a ghost for years. Rebecca used to tell me he'd moved on, which was fine by me, but ghosts don't stay quiet forever. One Thursday afternoon, I came home early and there he was, standing on my front porch like he'd been invited. Tall, lean hair slicked back, wearing that cheap kind of confidence you can smell before you see. Samuel, he said, smiling too wide. Heard you're the man of the house now. Guess that's what happens when someone actually shows up, I said, unlocking the door. He chuckled like we were old pals, walked inside without waiting, eyes scanning the living room like he was appraising it. Nice place. Carpentry must pay well. He said it light, but there was a bite under it, the kind of envy that stinks of insecurity. Rebecca was nervous, laughing too hard at his jokes, trying to keep things civil. The kids were quiet, watching him like he was some celebrity. Jordan showed him his room, proud of the posters and new gear I'd helped him buy. Derek just nodded, said your mom really landed on her feet. He didn't say you, didn't say we, just your mom. After that visit, things changed slowly. Nothing explosive, nothing dramatic, just small cracks spreading under the paint. Derek started texting them. Little things at first. How's school? Proud of you, champ. Maybe we should grab lunch sometime. Then came the weekend visits. Rebecca said it was healthy. I agreed, even though my gut said otherwise. The first few times Jordan came back from those hangouts, he was buzzing. He'd talk about how Dad took me to this cool car show, or Dad said he might get me something for my birthday. I kept my face neutral. I wasn't about to compete for approval. That's a game no man wins. Ashley was softer about it. She'd show me pictures of them at the park and ask if it was okay she spent time with him. I always told her yes. She needed her dad, even if he'd only started acting like one when the heavy lifting was already done. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't sting. Watching another man step into something I built from sweat and late nights, then act like it was his all along. It hit different. Still, I told myself it was fine. I wasn't going to be that guy who got jealous over family ties. A few weeks later, I decided Jordan and I needed some one-on-one time. A men's dinner, I called it. Steakhouse, no small talk, just us. He was cleaning up his football gear when I asked. He froze, looked guilty, then said he couldn't. Dad already planned something tonight. He tried to sound casual, but his tone told me he didn't want to disappoint me. Hey, I said, forcing a grin. It's all right, you two have fun. Just don't let him rope you into paying. He laughed, but it was that awkward laugh people use when they're unsure which side they're on. I watched him leave his hoodie half-zipped and thought about how quick things change. When Rebecca came home that night, she said I was quiet. Just tired, I said. But really, I was thinking about Rob again, my buddy who once told me, never build your life in another man's house. Maybe he wasn't wrong after all. Still, I let it go. Told myself I was being paranoid. Told myself kids need their dad. I remember standing in the doorway later watching Jordan scroll through his phone, Ashley giggling on the couch. They looked happy, so I took a breath and decided to stay out of it. I wasn't going to be the guy who kept them from their father, not realizing their father was the one already trying to take everything from me. At first, it was small stuff, barely noticeable, the kind of change you only catch when it's too late. Jordan started spending more time in his room door, shut headphones in. Ashley stopped helping me in the garage. The laughter that used to fill the house started sounding forced. I'd come home from a long day on site, dust on my boots, sawdust in my hair, and find Jordan slouched on the couch scrolling through his phone, barely looking up when I walked in. Hey man, how was school? Fine. Need a hand with your project? Nah. That was it. One-word answers, no eye contact. Ashley still tried to be her cheerful self, but she was quieter. I'd catch her looking nervous every time Jordan spoke to her. Once she came into the garage while I was cutting boards and just stood there fiddling with her sleeves. I shut off the saw and asked what was wrong. She shook her head and forced a smile. Nothing, just bored. She lasted 2 minutes before her eyes filled with tears. Ash, talk to me, I said, stepping closer. She muttered something about school, then ran to her room crying. That was the first time I realized whatever was happening wasn't about school. When Rebecca got home, I told her what happened. She didn't even look up from her phone. They're just teenagers, Samuel. You know how they are. Moody, dramatic. It'll pass. Rebecca, your daughter was crying over nothing. Exactly. Over nothing. Don't read into it. I walked away before saying something I'd regret, but the truth was, something had changed. I could feel it in the air like the house itself was holding its breath. A week later, Jordan quit his part-time job. No warning, no reason. I asked why, and he just shrugged. It was boring. Boring, I said. You were proud of that job. He smirked. I don't need it. I'll find something better. That something better turned out to be me. He started asking for cash constantly. Lunch money, a few bucks to hang out. At first I helped. Then it became daily. 50 here, 20 there. Finally, one night, I'd had enough. Jordan, I'm not your bank. You quit your job, so if you want money, you'll need to earn it. He looked up from his phone, eyebrows raised. Didn't you take Dad's role? Then act like it. For a second, I thought I misheard him. What did you just say? He leaned back, smirking. You're the one who moved in. Married mom played family. You're supposed to take care of us, right? I crossed my arms. Being a dad doesn't mean giving free money. It means teaching you not to depend on it. He rolled his eyes. Whatever. You're not my real dad anyway. He stormed out, slamming his door hard enough to rattle the picture frames. I stood there, jaw clenched, waiting for Rebecca to step in, say something. She didn't. She just sat on the couch, pretending to scroll through her phone, pretending it wasn't happening. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark living room, staring at the floorboards I'd installed myself, wondering how fast things could fall apart. The next day, Jordan avoided me completely. Ashley tried to act normal, but I could see the guilt written all over her face. When I offered her breakfast, she said she wasn't hungry and ran out the door early. I figured maybe they needed space, so I focused on work, but every time I came home, the distance grew wider. The warmth was gone. Dinner turned quiet. Jordan's phone pinged nonstop during meals. Ashley barely spoke. Then came the night that sealed my gut feeling. I had been up late finishing a custom desk order in the garage. It was close to midnight when I came inside, and I heard Jordan's voice upstairs, low but sharp, like he didn't want to be overheard. He won't budge, he was saying. I told him already he's not going to give me anything. I froze halfway up the stairs. Then another voice, muffled but familiar, deep, smug Derek. I couldn't catch everything, just pieces. Keep trying. He owes your mom anyway. You deserve it. My stomach twisted. Jordan mumbled something back, frustrated. Then, yeah, I got it. I'll figure something out. A pause. Then Derek again, laughing quietly. That's my boy. That was all I needed to hear. I went back down the stairs without making a sound. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. Anger. Derek was poisoning his own kid, turning him into a pawn. I sat on the couch for an hour after that, staring at nothing. The house was quiet except for the ticking of the clock. Rebecca came down half asleep, asking why I was up. Couldn't sleep, I said. She shrugged, yawned, and went back to bed. That's when it hit me. I was fighting this war alone. It wasn't about money anymore. It wasn't about teenage attitude or growing pains. Derek was in their heads, twisting everything I'd built into something ugly. I looked around the living room at all the things I'd built with my own hands, the shelves, the table, the frame on the wall, and realized it wasn't just wood or nails anymore. It was a battlefield. Something ugly was forming behind my back, and I had no idea how deep it went. That weekend, the house felt heavier than usual. Jordan barely spoke to me. Rebecca acted like everything was fine, and Ashley's sweet kid walked around looking like she was carrying a secret too big for her size. I couldn't shake the gut feeling that Derek was still pulling strings. Monday morning, the house emptied out. Rebecca went to work, Ashley to school, and Jordan left late, half-dressed, headphones in, slamming the door on his way out. That's when I saw it. His iPad sitting on the kitchen counter, still plugged in, the same one I'd paid for. Normally, I'm not the kind of guy who snoops, but when the same kid who once thanked you for teaching him carpentry starts whispering with the deadbeat who abandoned him, the rules change. I picked up the iPad, opened it, and saw the Messages app already pulled up. At first, it was just normal stuff, school chats, memes, friends. Then I saw a contact saved as Dad. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. The thread was long weeks of conversations full of Derek's charm and manipulation dripping through every word. The first message from Derek read, "He's got plenty, son. You deserve some of it." Jordan replied a few minutes later, he says no. Says I should work for it. Derek shot back, "That's because he wants control. If you get what's yours, we can fix things. Your mom will see that I can still provide." Jordan hesitated before sending his next message. "You mean like before?" and Derek's final text sealed it. Exactly. Once we have something set aside, I can come back. We'll all be a family again? My stomach turned. We'll all be a family again. That was his plan. Use his own kid to rob me blind just to play hero. There were more lines about me being just the handyman, the wallet temporary. Derek was feeding that poison to Jordan like candy. Scrolling further, I found the part that broke me. Derek texted he keeps cash in that workshop, right? You said he gets paid in cash sometimes? Jordan answered, yeah, in the cabinet by the tool rack. Derek replied, good. Next time he's out, grab it. I'll pick it up. We'll call it payback. I moved that cash the same day I found the messages, emptied the cabinet, and tucked it in the drawer by the front door. If Derek came looking, he'd be searching the wrong spot. I set the iPad down and just stared at it for a minute. I build things with my hands for a living, but in that moment, I felt completely helpless. Every nail, every dollar, every late night I'd put into this family, it was all being used against me. I almost closed it there. Almost. But something told me there was more, and there was. A separate chat popped up between Jordan and Ashley. I clicked it, and my heart broke twice in one day. Jordan's message came first. You're in or you're out. Ashley replied, this is wrong. Sam doesn't deserve this. Jordan fired back, you're just like him, always taking his side. She answered, because he's good to us. You're letting Dad use you. Jordan ended it with one final message. You're a traitor. Don't talk to me again. Ashley tried standing up for me, and her brother, the kid I taught to build his first table, was treating her like the enemy. I leaned back in the chair staring at the screen. The house was quiet, but my head wasn't. Derek had turned my home into a war zone, and Rebecca hadn't even noticed, or worse, she didn't want to. I needed to be smart. Losing my temper wouldn't help anyone. So I got to work the only way I know how, methodically. First, I logged into the family account and removed Jordan's access to the credit card I'd linked for gas and school expenses. Then I froze the secondary account I'd set up for emergencies. The iPad was still unlocked. He never bothered setting a passcode, so I added one myself and changed the Apple ID password. By the time I was done, my coffee had gone cold. That evening, the house buzzed again with its usual fake normal. Rebecca was making pasta. Jordan was upstairs, and Ashley was sitting on the couch pretending to read. I watched her for a minute, the way her eyes darted toward Jordan's room every time she heard movement. She looked scared. When dinner was done, I told her, hey Ash, come on, let's grab some ice cream. She hesitated. Now. Yeah, now. My treat. We drove in silence for a bit before she spoke. Did I do something wrong? She asked quietly. No, I said, but I think you're carrying something that's not yours to carry. Her lip trembled, and before I could say more, tears started rolling down her cheeks. He wanted me to help, she said, voice cracking. Dad said if we took some money, he could come back and everything would be normal again. But I told him no. I told him it was wrong. I parked the truck and just let her cry. She kept apologizing, saying she didn't want to lose her brother or make me mad. I put a hand on her shoulder. Listen, Ash, you didn't do anything wrong. You did the right thing. You told the truth, and that's brave. Don't ever feel bad for that. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Are you going to tell Mom eventually? I said, but for now, I just want you safe. Let me worry about the rest. We sat there a while, two people in a truck parked outside a tiny ice cream shop, pretending everything wasn't falling apart. She finally smiled when I handed her a cone and said extra sprinkles. Doctor's orders. On the way home, she fell asleep against the window, and I just drove slow thinking. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I had my answer. I wasn't dealing with teenage rebellion anymore. This was manipulation, and it went straight through the man who should have been the last person to hurt them. I carried Ashley to her room, tucked her in, and stood there a minute watching her sleep. For the first time, I didn't feel like the dad. I felt like the bodyguard trying to protect someone from her own blood. Downstairs, I looked around at the family photos, the ones where I'd forced smiles out of people who probably never wanted to be in them. For the first time, those pictures didn't look like memories. They looked like evidence. I grabbed the iPad, the printouts I'd made, and went to the kitchen. Rebecca was unloading groceries, humming like nothing in the world was wrong. We need to talk, I said. My tone must have told her I wasn't asking. She frowned, turning. What's going on? I placed the papers on the counter and slid the iPad over. That's what's going on. She skimmed the first page, then the next, eyes widening. What is this messages? I said flatly, between your son and your ex plotting to steal from me. You might want to sit down. Her face went pale as she scrolled. When she hit the part where Derek was telling Jordan to grab the cash and call it payback, she dropped the iPad like it burned. "I can't believe this," she whispered. I crossed my arms. "Believe it. It's been going on for weeks." She shook her head almost like she was trying to convince herself. "Samuel, he's a kid. He doesn't understand. Derek's manipulating him." I cut her off. "He's 16, Rebecca, not 6. He knows stealing is wrong. He's confused." She snapped, tears starting to build, "And Derek's still their father no matter what he's done." That sentence hit me harder than I expected. Still their father. I laughed once bitter. "Yeah, I noticed. You keep letting him play house through his son." Her eyes hardened. "Don't make this worse, Samuel. You're blowing it out of proportion. Blowing it." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Rebecca, he tried to rob me. He's been taking orders from a man who walked out on you and you're defending them." She wiped her eyes. He's my son. What am I supposed to do?" "Maybe start by holding him accountable," I said coldly. She didn't answer, just stared at the floor. That silence told me everything. She wasn't on my side. She never really had been. That night, I didn't sleep. The house was quiet, but my head wasn't. I kept replaying Rebecca's words, her defending Derek, defending Jordan, and I started wondering why I was still there. By 2 in the morning, I had the thought I'd been avoiding. Maybe it was time to walk away, divorce. The word hit hard, but it didn't sound wrong. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired. Tired of building something everyone else seemed set on breaking. When the sun came up, I decided I'd give it one last shot to see if there was anything left worth saving, but deep down I already knew the answer. Then one afternoon, I pulled into the driveway and heard Jordan's voice through his open window. He was on the phone laughing. "Yeah, he's just Mom's husband with money," he said. "Acts like he owns the place. It's pathetic." That did it. I walked inside, straight down the hall, and pushed open his door. He was sprawled on his bed, phone still in hand. The moment he saw me, his smirk vanished. "Get off the phone," I said. He hung up slowly, eyebrows raised. "You could have knocked." "I heard what you said," I told him. "Say it again." He rolled his eyes. "Relax, it's not that serious." "Not that serious? You've been lying, stealing, and trash-talking the person who kept this roof over your head." He sat up, sneering. "You think you own me or something. You're not my dad. You're just some guy Mom married. Know your place." For a second, I just stared at him. The same kid who once handed me part of his first paycheck now looked at me like I was dirt. Then I nodded slowly. "You're right, Jordan. I'm not your dad. I don't own you, but I also don't have to let you live in my house while you act like this." He blinked, thrown off. "What? You heard me." I opened his closet, grabbed a duffel bag, and started packing shirts, shoes, whatever I could grab. "You can stay with your dad if he's such a role model." "You can't do that," he yelled, jumping up. "Watch me." Rebecca burst in, a minute later, panicked. "Samuel, what are you doing?" "What you should have done months ago," I said, zipping the bag, setting boundaries. She rushed over, grabbed the bag from me. "You can't just throw him out. He's still a kid, he's a thief." I said, my tone sharp and a liar. "You defend him one more time and you can go with him." That shut her up. Jordan folded his arms, glaring. "You can't control us." I took a deep breath. "You're right again, kid. I can't control anyone, but I can decide who gets to live under my roof." Rebecca started crying now, pleading, "Please just let him stay one night. We'll figure it out tomorrow." I looked at Jordan, then at her. My patience was hanging by a thread. "One night," I said finally. "He's gone in the morning." "I'm serious, Rebecca. If he's still here by noon, you both can pack up." I left before she could answer. Later that night, Ashley knocked softly on my office door. Her eyes were red from crying. "Sam," she whispered. I nodded for her to come in. She sat on the edge of the chair, twisting her fingers. "Do you hate us now?" That question hit harder than any insult Jordan had thrown. I leaned forward. "No, sweetheart. I don't hate you. You did nothing wrong." Her voice broke. "But everything's falling apart." I sighed, rubbing the back of my neck. "Sometimes things need to fall apart so you can see what they're really made of." She didn't really understand, but she nodded anyway and went to bed. When the house finally went quiet, I sat in the dark living room staring at the blank television screen. The respect I thought I'd earned, the family I thought I built it, wasn't real. It was just me holding everything together while everyone else waited for it to collapse, and now it finally had. Sometime around 2 in the morning, I woke to a faint rattle downstairs. At first, I thought it was the wind shaking the back door. Then I heard whispers. Two voices low, hurried, familiar. I slipped out of bed. Rebecca stirred beside me. "Sam, what's wrong?" "Stay here," I said quietly. I grabbed my flashlight from the dresser and closed the bedroom door behind me. I wasn't taking chances. Halfway down the stairs, I heard them again, Jordan and Derek. They were in the living room moving fast. I could see the light from a phone screen flickering across their faces. Derek's voice was clear now, low but sharp. "Check the drawers. He keeps some cash around." I stepped off the last stair slow and steady. My heartbeat was loud, but my voice was calm. "You boys lose something." Derek froze first. Jordan spun around, pale as drywall dust. The duffel bag on the couch was already half full, my watch, a few tools, some cash from the drawer I kept near the door. Derek straightened up, smirked. "Samuel didn't mean to wake you. Just having a chat with my son?" "Yeah," I said, shining the flashlight directly on the bag. "You always have father-son talks with other people's money." His smirk twitched. "You've got plenty. Don't act like this is a big deal." "Big deal?" I stepped closer. "You broke into my house. You're making your kid a thief. You call that parenting?" Jordan wouldn't look at me. He just muttered. He said we were just getting back what's ours. That was the final nail. "Ours," I said, voice low. "You live in a house I paid for, eat food, I buy, wear clothes I pay for, and you call that yours." Derek stepped forward, chest out like he was still the alpha. "You done playing hero. You took my family, Samuel. All I'm doing is taking back what belongs to me. Your family." I laughed, no humor in it. "You walked out on them years ago. You didn't lose them. They outgrew you." His face changed. The fake charm dropped. "Watch your mouth," he snapped, shoving me hard in the shoulder. I stumbled back but didn't fall. "That all you got?" He lunged again, grabbing at me, but I caught his arm and pushed him off. He tripped over the coffee table, knocking over the lamp. The sound shattered the quiet. "Stop it!" Jordan yelled, panicking. The noise must have woken Rebecca because a second later she was running down the stairs in her robe. She froze halfway down when she saw Derek standing there, breath-heavy, duffel bag wide open. "Derek," she whispered, voice cracking. "What are you doing?" He turned toward her, red-faced, furious. "Go back upstairs, Becky. You've done enough." That sentence stopped her cold. I saw something break in her expression, years of excuses finally collapsing all at once. Ashley's voice came next, shaky from upstairs. "Mom, what's happening?" Rebecca turned toward her, tears streaming. "Stay in your room, Ashley. Call the police." That was the first time I'd ever heard her sound sure of something. I could hear Ashley's footsteps running back to her room, the faint sound of her crying as she talked to 911. Outside, lights flicked on. Our neighbor, Mrs. Harris, was looking out the window. I heard her phone ringing too. Derek noticed the movement and panicked. "We're leaving," he barked at Jordan, grabbing the bag. "No one's going anywhere," I said, stepping in front of the door. He tried to push past me again, but I caught his wrist and twisted it just enough to make him drop the bag. Jordan shouted, "Samuel, stop," but Derek swung anyway, a wild punch that hit the side of my shoulder. I shoved him back hard, just enough to keep him off balance. "You're done, Derek. It's over." Then came the sound I'd been waiting for, sirens faint but closing in fast. The flashing lights filled the room a minute later. Two officers came in through the front door, weapons drawn until they saw the scene. Derek sweating, Jordan pale, Rebecca crying at the bottom of the stairs. "What's going on here?" one of them demanded. Derek spoke first, hands up. "He attacked us. I came to talk to my son, and he lost it. Started swinging. I didn't even answer." Rebecca stepped forward before I could. "That's a lie," she said firmly. "They broke in. They were stealing from him. I saw everything." Mrs. Harris appeared at the front door in her robe, shouting from the porch, "I called you. They broke in. I saw them through my window." Derek tried to argue, but I reached for my phone, pulled up the screenshots I'd saved, the messages between him and Jordan, the proof of everything. I handed it to the nearest officer. The cop scrolled for 30 seconds before nodding. "All right, sir, that's enough." They cuffed Derek right there in the living room. Jordan started crying, saying, "I didn't mean to. I just wanted to help." One of the officers let him out gently, saying he wasn't under arrest yet, but would need to come down for questioning. Rebecca was shaking so hard she had to sit down. I handed her a blanket without saying a word. The police spent the next hour taking statements, photographing the mess, logging evidence. When they finally left, the house felt hollow. Derek was gone, Jordan was gone, and Rebecca, she just sat there, face buried in her hands, whispering, "You were right. God, you were right. I didn't say I told you so. Didn't need to. Days after consequences came. Derek faced charges for breaking and entering, attempted theft, and assault. He tried to talk his way out of it, of course, claiming it was a misunderstanding. The officers had seen enough to know better. When I got the call confirming he was being held without bail, he had prior. I just nodded and went back to sanding a piece of oak. Sometimes the noise of work is the only thing that keeps your thoughts straight. They questioned Jordan that night and let him go, but a week later, detectives filed charges. The court gave him probation and counseling. He got off lighter because he was a minor. I didn't fight it. The kid had already lost enough, his pride, his freedom, his grip on what was right. Rebecca handled the court hearings while I stayed out of it. The damage was already done. A week later, we had our final talk. She stood in the doorway, hands shaking, voice small. Samuel, I'm sorry. I defended the wrong people. I should have listened to you. I just looked at her. For the first time, I didn't feel angry, just done. Yeah, I said quietly. You should have. We both knew there was no fixing this. The trust was gone, replaced by something colder and heavier. So I filed for divorce. No screaming, no lawyers dragging it out. We just signed papers, divided what was left, and moved on. She moved in with her sister a few towns over. I stayed not because I loved the house anymore, but because I wanted to finish what I'd started on my own terms this time. Ashley wrote me letters after they left, neat handwriting, little doodles in the corners. She'd tell me about school, about how she missed helping me in the garage. I always wrote back short and simple. Proud of you. Keep being kind. She'd reply with another letter a week later, and I'd read them all, keeping them in a box on my desk. Then a few months later, Jordan tried reaching out. First it was a text, I'm sorry. Then an email. I didn't understand what I was doing. I was stupid. Finally a letter. His handwriting had changed, sloppier, uncertain. He wrote about therapy, about how he was learning to take responsibility. Said he missed working in the garage with me. I read every word, then I folded it back up and put it away without replying. Not because I hated him, but because forgiveness doesn't rebuild what betrayal tears apart. Some bridges aren't burned. They're dismantled piece by piece until there's nothing left to walk on. Rebecca and the kids stayed with her sister for good. From what I heard, she picked up a job at a local store. Jordan was still in counseling. Ashley was doing well. That was enough for me. One evening, I sat on the porch as the sun dipped low, same spot where I'd watched it rise the night everything fell apart. I thought about how it all started with me thinking love and effort could earn respect, how I'd built a life for people who saw me as replaceable. They told me to know my place. Turns out my place was anywhere but there. I gave love time and everything I had, and all I got back was betrayal. Some lessons you only need to learn once, and that was enough.